So the interview prep is okay. I finally made up my mind. I've bagged some interviews and I need to prepare for them. And succeeding on the job means that you have gotten a job. Out of all the interviews, you've gotten a job. So what next? How do I survive here? How do I become a good product manager that has results to show? So that's what I'm going to be going into. But I'm going to go to the next slide now. Kuti, the next slide, if you can move to the next slide. So to begin with, I'm going to start with the definition of product management. It's easy to say, I want to go into product management. I need to move to the next slide. Who is sharing the slides per se? I don't know who. Adebisi. Okay, Adebisi. If you can move to the next slide, thank you. So to begin with, let's define who a product manager is. Right? It's easy to say I like product management, or how it is these days that everyone tech is the rave of the moment, and everybody wants to be in tech or go to tech. And sometimes you just feel like, oh, I can't write code to save my life. So product management is like the next best thing. So let's get on. What is product management really about? Is there anybody that wants to like define who a product manager is? I've heard a lot of myths about product management they are not true, but because of how the career path is, it makes you feel like it is true. So it's a role that the definition is kind of confusing, right? I don't know if anybody wants to help us out here to define who a product manager is. Please, someone should unmute and help us. I'm sharing car gifts, so I wanted to turn on my video, but my network, so I don't want to, so that you can see the car. I have cars behind me as gifts for people that be answering questions, people that would interact. I want it to be very interactive because I like discussing and gisting. So let's make it lively and bubbly. So nobody's telling us. Okay, we've already spent a lot of time. So let's define who a product manager is. Before I go to the next slide, I want to talk about some myths I've heard. So, I've heard some people say that the product manager is like the entrepreneur. And we all know who an entrepreneur is. That's like the owner of a business. Some people say that the product manager is the mini CEO. So you have like the big CEO, the CEO of the company, then the product manager is like the mini CEO. So once you hear things like this, it's funny. Personally, I laugh when I hear myths like that. So the product manager is none of these things. I would most likely refer to the product manager as a middleman, right? So I don't know if you've been to churches where the pastor needs to preach and then the pastor has an interpreter that now conveys the pastor's message to the audience. So when I try to explain product management in layman terms, I just say that the product manager is like that interpreter in church. So someone comes to the church, you are in Makoko, for example, where the primary language there is Egun. And there's someone that comes in from America to preach to these Egun people, and the people there cannot understand English. Just for example, I know Egun people understand English. I'm just using this for example. So the product manager is now like the interpreter. So once the pastor says a thing, the product manager has to interpret it to the people. But where product management is kind of different is someone is preaching. So in this case, the product manager is the interpreter. The pastor that is preaching is the stakeholders. It could be business, it could be marketing, it could be design. So you get into a company. The company says, okay, the goal of this company is to sell 1,000 solar panels per year, and we increase it by 1,000 every year. That's the goal of the company, right? If the product manager comes to the people of Egu and say, Egu people, we want to sell 1,000 solar panels per year, so you guys have to buy it. It's not going to work. So that's why it's a bit different from the pastor interpreter scenario. The business tells you what they want to do. You help the business translate it into something that the users can understand. And you are now like the bridge between business and the end product, right? So what a product manager would do in that state, if the business has said, okay, I want to sell 1,000 solar panels every year, as a product manager, in interpreting this to the users, you can go to the users and say, okay, the light is not so stable here. We can give you a product that would help you acquire solar panels per house, every household can have one solar panel. So that's obviously not what the pastor said, but the product manager is now trying to break it down to the user and run with the objective that the stakeholder has given to them, also adding in their own expertise, adding in their own innovative ideas, so that at the end of the day, the user is happy, business is happy, you are the middleman, and you are just keeping things in balance. So to the next slide, a product manager, how it's defined here, is the strategic driver of a product success. No, I'm still on that slide here. Is the strategic driver of a product success, responsible for defining its vision, aligning with stakeholders, and ensuring that you are meeting user needs while achieving business goals. So the product managers are bridging the gap between engineering, design, and business teams to impact solutions. So you need to have an idea of almost everything. I cannot write code to save my life, but there are times where the management would say, okay, we need to add a feature so that customers will be able to do this by themselves. That's all they're saying. But when I go to the engineers, I'm not going there to say the business says we need to add a feature so that customers can do this, and that needs to be done in the next 3 weeks, or that needs to be done in the next 1 week. Right? You now need to also understand a bit of what to take the engineering guys to achieve this. You now need to understand a bit of what the design for this feature would be. You now need to understand what the people, so management must have said that, and you build it and give to them. But the people selling the feature is probably the sales team. So you build a feature like that without interacting with the sales team. And when you are done with the product, the sales team is like, okay, you didn't do something that is sellable. We can't take this to the streets to sell it. You've done what management wants. You've gotten your engineers to implement it, but it's not practical. So in running with any objective, you now need to align with all stakeholders. Business said this, okay, I've heard you. Marketing, what do you think about this? Okay, I've heard you. Sales guys, how do you see this working out? What would you need for this to work? So you are basically consolidating all of this feedback, and you are coming up with a product that can actually win and at the same time meet company objectives, right? So I think from what I've been saying, it's an admirable position, even though in real life sometimes it's not admirable, because sometimes your stakeholders can all be saying different things at the same time. So you may want to launch, okay, because of my experience in loans, I'm going to give you a brief example. You want to launch a loan product that would help users take loans in less than 2 minutes. That's the objective. The company doesn't care if you are doing the loan for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. The objective of the company, the board, is that we want to book loans. That's about it. You go to marketing. Okay, how can we communicate this to users that they can take loans for us? Marketing will say, what's the selling point? Then you might say, okay, the selling point is that people can take the loans in 1 minute or 30 seconds. So marketing starts doing their marketing around that. And then you go to sales, and sales is like, we can't do that, because if you are saying it's 1 minute, it means that our sales agents need to be super fast and all of that. So sometimes the opinions would now start clashing, and you just need to be able to find a balance. So sometimes the job of a product manager involves you thinking a lot, trying to be innovative, come up with solutions that Mr. A is happy, Mr. B is happy, and Mr. C is happy. So let's get into, after now discovering what product management is like and how you are kind of like the balance, and it deals with the product life cycle from when the product was ideated, from the day the idea of the product was spoken to the day you push it to the market until it matures. You are going to be overseeing everything about the product. Having gotten all of that background, how do you now find the right job for you? How do you find the right job? So that will lead us on to the next slide, because here we're trying to talk about getting you breaking into product management, especially as a beginner. You've never gone into product management, you just want to go into product management. How do you determine if a job is the right one for you to take? I said I've been doing product management in lending. How did I determine that, okay, lending is the space that I want to play in? Why am I not doing gaming? Why am I not doing product management in gaming, or product management in food, product management in hospitality, or product management in agriculture? Why am I not throwing any of these? Right? So it starts with you doing an analysis of your strengths and your weakness. So that's what we basically have in this slide, you understand your strength and your weakness, your strength and your interests as well. So before I got into product management, I already gave you a backstory of how I was sitting in customer service in a bank, and countless customers would troop in to update phone numbers, do address updates, things that could easily be done on the app, but they would fill like 10 forms, 13 forms, and they would be complaining, and I'd be seeing this pain in their faces, and I'm like, if you feel it and give it to me, I'll help you, but that's how it is. I can't change how it is. And that's what made me go into product management. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into the product management of this company and try to solve some of these problems that I've experienced on the other end, right? So obviously I was already now interested. So my strength was the experience I had, and I was already interested in banking and solving banking problems in general. So I knew that any job in product management around banking, financials and stuff, I would do well. So I'd already known that. So you want to be able to look at what are you interested in? Are you interested in gaming? Do you think that okay? Have you ever tried playing maybe your PS4, PS5? I'm not conversant with it. And anytime you hit a button, it doesn't work. Or anytime you try to do a feature, it doesn't work. And you're like, why is this not working? I wish I was working in the team that designed this game. I would do it this way and it would work. That's already interest. Something right. Stopped. We're continue from where I stopped. We're trying to find the right job for everyone on this call. We're trying to find the right industry for everyone on this call, right? So you get to understand your strengths and what you're interested in. So once to figure that out, you need to identify your core skills. What are you good at? What are you really good? Like for me, for example, I like talking to people. I think I can sell water to a fish, because I have this like sweet mouth in quotes. So I already know that, okay, my communication skills, okay, I have good communication skills. Do I need to know how to manage people? I also know how to manage people. Right? So you now start to think about your strength. What is your strength? Do you have a good eye for design? Do you have a good eye for detail? Like everyone can be looking at a billboard, but you notice even the smallest things, and you just notice ways to make them better. So find out what your strengths are, your core skills, right? I listed a few here: strategic thinking, stakeholder management, your technical expertise. Do you know how to code a bit? That's an edge, right? Then you now need to determine, do you prefer, if you prefer working on B2B, B2C, software as a service, fintech. So B2B is business to business. So kind of an example is what MoneyPoint is doing. So MoneyPoint is a business, and they have solutions for other businesses. So like merchants, they will give them POS machines, give them access to business loans. So that's an example, a simple example of B2B. Or do you like things that you are not interfacing with businesses, you want to do B2C? So that's business to customers. Something like what MTN is doing. They are a business and they are servicing you, me, Mr. Okoro, Mr. Ibu, and all of us. So we are all customers, and they are interfacing directly with like the customers, right? Software as a service. This is where you come up with like tech solutions and you offer it as a service. I can't find a quick example for that one. Or do you want to go to fintech? So just find out what environment works for you. What do you want? Where do you see yourself? And then you now assess yourself whether you thrive in early stage startups, mid-sized companies, or large enterprises. Because we're trying to find the right job for you. You found out your strength. You've determined if you want to work in B2B, B2C, pure fintech, or SaaS. So now you want to find out, when you find companies in this thing, what else do you filter by? Do you want a startup? Because a company that started 2 months, 3 months, 6 months ago. I've had experience with startups, and I've had experience with large enterprises. And for startups, trust me, you will learn a lot in very short time. Like your brain will literally be expanding in seconds or in minutes, right? Because you are part of the decision-making process for almost everything. You literally see the company as they are growing. You see them make mistakes and get back from it before your very face. But large enterprises are put together, they have structure, they have everything mostly figured out, right? So you now determine which one would you prefer. Would you like to do all the work, roll up your sleeves and do all the foundational work? Or would you like something that the food is there, you just come to eat, you just want to eat, right? So you determine what works for you. Whichever one you like is beautiful, is perfect. Then the next thing, you now define your career goals. Where do you see yourself where do you see this product management career? Do you want to take it for 10 years, 20 years? That's high level. Then you now say, do you want to focus on technical products? Do you want to focus in growth and marketing products? Do you want to just be like platform level, like a platform level product manager? Right? So a product manager that is focusing on technical products, for example, how do I get a technical product example? So something that just works. So technical product example, I'm going to take WhatsApp for example. WhatsApp, for example, they have this feature now where you can see you can see your contact, you can see their status. Then when you are not even on the status tab, provided you are on your main chat, you can see when they have a status. You just see that ring highlighted. You know that person has a status, right? So some technical features also amount to growth and marketing, right? So that's a technical feature by a product manager who I think is very innovative because they keep improving WhatsApp, right? So that's a technical feature. You just want to be churning out technical features, things that will make user experience better and all of that. Or you want to focus on growth and product marketing, growth and product marketing. So you can be a product manager, but you're into growth. So all the features you'll be launching are features that would help the company to grow. So not just okay. Another thing you need to consider when you're trying to define your career goal in product management, you look for a role. Are you looking for, you need to discover what kind of role are you looking for. Are you looking for a role with strong mentorship? Or are you looking for roles where you have
Hi,
full
Mary.
ownership? An example,
Hi,
hi.
Mary. Sorry, we can't see. I don't know if it's from my end. I can't see your screen anymore.
Yeah, so Adebisi was sharing the screen, but I think she dropped off the call.
Okay.
So that's why
Okay.
I'm just trying to kind of talk through that slide she was initially sharing while I'm
Oh,
waiting for her to come back.
okay. Thank you for that. You can go on, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So another thing, you now need to look for what works for you. Are you looking for a role with strong mentorship, or you're looking for a role that allows you just do stuff on your own? You know, this would also trickle down into your personality type. Some people just like to work in silo. Some people just want to work alone. I don't, but it's not good because you need to embrace team spirit, especially in product management. You need to have people skills, right? But some people, the right definition for this is the creative room. So there are companies where you need there's strong mentorship. If you are a very innovative person and you get new ideas every 3 seconds, for example, you're like, oh, this product, what if we make this thing green? If we make it green, more people will understand that this is a CTA. Let's not make it black. So you immediately get that rush of innovative ideas. But if you are working with a company that has strong mentorship structure, you need to consult. Like, oh, hi, boss. So I felt like this button is gray and users are not seeing it. If we make it a green button or orange, it will make users understand that, oh, they can click on this to progress into that feature, right? You need to constantly run your ideas through your manager. There's like hierarchy structure going on. So is that what works for you? Or do you want an environment that just allows you to be creative? You are calling the shots, you have full ownership, you feel like this should change, and you're able to set the ball in motion and things would actually change. So find out what works for you. So all of this will help you. There are some job applications that you see and you be like, oh no, this is not for me. I will not apply, because you now understand what a right job fit for you would be, right? So now you also need to evaluate the company culture. Sorry, I think someone is not muted and they're trying to. So evaluate company culture and vision. This is like faith. Should I call it a faith walk? Because you're looking for a job. We are all looking for a job in this call. Let's just try to add the drama. We've not seen the company yet, but before you see the company, think of the kind of company that you want, right? What are your values? To start that, you need to know your values. So if your values are, I like work-life balance, 5 p.m. is 5 p.m., I'm logging off, right? When you start looking for a job and when you go to the interview and you ask questions and they're like, okay, we work till 10 p.m., you obviously know that's a no, right? You didn't need to go to the interview before knowing yourself. So understand your values and what values you want to work with. So that would help you know the companies to apply to. Then also you want to look at the development process. is also something to look out for when you want to evaluate culture. So there are some companies where they get an idea in January 2023. It doesn't launch till January 2026. They're extremely slow. It's either the implementation is very slow, or the documentation is very slow, or the approval is very slow. So you look at yourself, are you someone that would like such an environment? Or are you someone that likes speed? You want to think of an idea, you have it out in the market in the next 2 weeks. You want to be agile. So you need to now identify what bucket you fall under so that you know what job works for you. So I think I'm good to go to the next slide now. Still on finding the right job for you. We just have 3 more metrics to close out. So on the next slide, we now have access expectations and responsibilities. So some product managers are more strategic, while some are very execution heavy. So there are some people that, so you find out which one are you. There are some people that they would say, okay, we need to have a feature that would allow customers to automatically just be saving money. They don't need to come to the app. The app will just be saving the money, right? The execution heavy PM may not be the most innovative, but once you give them a task, they will do it, and they will do it in record time. They will do it in the time that you want it. And it will bring in money. It will bring in a lot of revenue, if that is the objective for why that feature was rolled out. But there are some that are more strategic. While the execution one is trying to execute a feature, someone can just think about it and say, okay, while you are doing that feature, I want a feature where every transfer the customer makes, automatically I'm saving 2K from their account anytime they hit a transfer. That's very strategic. The customer, I want 15 naira to be swept into another wallet so that it will act as savings, like round up savings for the customer. So while the other person is heavy on execution, there's someone that's already strategic, that's thinking of a better way, smoother way to do stuff. And most of the time you see that they are raking in more results than the ones that are execution heavy. But don't play with the execution heavy PMs, because some can be very strategic and slow to implement. But the execution heavy, whatever you give to them, it doesn't fall to the ground. They will run it to the end, right? So find out what bucket you fall under. Then check if the roles you are applying to, if they require more technical products or they are more business oriented. So some people are very techy and they have techy ideas. Some people are businessmen, right? Some people are businessmen. So you might have like the best fintech app in the world that close, maybe a Jumia, for example. Jumia is a tech product that sells clothes, fashion items, electronics, and all of that to customers. That's techie. But you have a businessman in Alaba that he doesn't know about Jumia, he doesn't know about tech, but he knows how to get his numbers. He's very business minded. So, which one are you? Okay, I think you can still hear me. Which one are you? Are you more of a business person, or are you more of the techie person? Then you need to now network and speak with current PMs. Sometimes your friends are product managers. Just have a chat to them. What do you think about product management? I'm trying to go into product management. What do you think my strengths are? Do you think I would like it and all of that? Try to network with PMs. I really, really always recommend LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can just search product manager and you have a lot of people come out because they are product managers, and some of them are quite nice. You can just have a simple template and say, hi, my name is Merit. I'm trying to go into product management. What would you advise me? Whatever your subject is, just type it and always just copy it and paste it, send to everybody. Not everybody will respond, but some people are nice and they will respond to you. And you can always go to them when you need advice, when you need ideas, when you need to bounce ideas off other people. So try to network and speak with people that are already in the field. Then ask about team dynamics, challenges, and growth opportunities. Then when you're applying for jobs, I always beg people to look beyond the job description. So these companies can put a lot of job description when they are putting out their job vacancies. But you now need to, when you go for interviews, there's a funny thing that happens when we go for interviews and they're like, do you have any question? And you're saying, how many days do I get for leave? Is there work-life balance? They are valid questions, right? They are very valid questions, but there are some questions that you need to ask because it's pertaining to your career. So you ask them, what defines success for me in this role? If I were to start this role, what would define success? You might think you're a very good PM, you are good with design, you have eye for detail, you know how to properly map out user journeys. and get users to follow through from the beginning of the process to the end. But you might be shocked that the company doesn't care what you know how to do, what you like to do. Success for you as a PM in that company will be to rake in 30 billion every year, right? So you need to find out first and know if it aligns, right? And then also try to find out who you're going to be working with. So once you've identified all of these about yourself, you now have an idea of what kind of jobs you'd apply for. For example, I cannot see a product manager job in what industry now is like a far cry. Should I say politics? Shockingly, there are product managers in politics, right? And go and apply for it. It doesn't align with my interests. It doesn't align with my strengths. I don't have experience there. I'm not even big on experience because I want to go in as a beginner, right? But with all of this, I already know the kind of jobs that once I see the vacancy, I'm excited. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this, right? So once you understand this, it will help you make the cut every time. So on the next slide, I'm just showing you where you can find Adenka, if you can help me move the slide, Rose, thank you. Where you can find product management jobs. I'm not going to dwell on this, but if you get the slide after the class, you'd be able to like visit these sites, right? I always recommend LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a nice search feature. You can filter by remote jobs only, filter by hybrid jobs, full-time jobs, internship. You can filter by a lot of criteria and see vacancies that fall under that range. Sometimes LinkedIn is dry, but don't give up on the days when it's dry, when companies are not putting out vacancies. Just keep at it. Sometimes I don't even apply. I just want to see the description. I want to see what you're expecting from who is applying. So I kind of understand where the industry is going and what is expected of product managers these days. That's also how I keep up with trend, right? So I recommend LinkedIn a lot. And there's Product Hunt, there's Angel List. Angel List helps with a lot of startup PM roles, right? Then check on company career pages. Company career pages means that, okay, I didn't see that you are recruiting on LinkedIn, but I've always wanted to work in InterSwitch, or I've always wanted to work in Google. I've always wanted to work with Apple. So you can now go to their site directly to find out if they have vacancies. So you can just keep tabs every week. And say every 2 weeks, let me be checking. Every 1 week, let me check, so that once it's a vacancy, I can just grab it, right? So that's another way to look for. And then networking and referrals. Talk to your friends that are PMs. Speak to people on LinkedIn. When there's a product event, try to attend, try to register, get a ticket, go there, just meet people, network, and tell them, oh, I'm open to work. If you see any vacancy, I like this. These are my interests. I'm looking for a role that will help me express XYZ, right? Then I also put some links there for remote jobs. I think we can go to the next slide now. So the next slide now speaks to landing a product management role, both for application and interview prep. So how do you found out what job works for you? You've come to understand if you're a business person or a more techie person, if you're a strategic person or a more execution heavy person. You've come to understand the type of jobs that would work for you. So now you want to start applying. How do you start? You start on the application side. You start by creating a strong resume. That's your CV. So start to work on your CV. For beginners, is a bit tricky because you may not have a lot of experience in that line, right? So this is where you now need to leverage internships, look for internship opportunities to volunteer, right? You currently work in a company as the marketing officer, and you like product management. There's definitely a product team in your company. How about you become friends with one person in the product team, and whenever they have a task or they need a hand, you can say, okay, whenever you guys need a hand, maybe you need to do research, you need to write user stories or something, because you've taken courses online, you already have an idea of what a PM would do. Like you need to do mind mapping, user stories, wireframing. You've already been learning those courses online, right? You can speak to them. If you have a task, I want to pick it up. Even if it's a task, even if I don't have to submit it, I want to do it, then you give it to the product manager to check it out and say, okay, I did this, rate the work. The assignment you guys gave me, what do you think? Right? So you are creating an opening, you are causing them to eyeball you. Once there's an opportunity, they might bring you in. So for beginners, you can also chip that into your CV, because it will help. So think of internship opportunities, try to partner with your already existing product team in your company, even if you are not currently in product. That will help you to build your resume, your CV, even if you're a beginner. Then for those that are experienced, when you want to build your resume, it has to be concise. It has to be one page. So try to work with the highlights. right? If you join the company and the company was doing 1,000 naira every month through that product, and when you handle the product, it went to 5,000 naira every month. Write it and say, I increased user engagement by XYZ%. I increased the product portfolio by XYZ. Give them numbers. It will make your recruiters know that, oh, it helps you when they are trying to screen CVs and all of that. Those things help, right? So use metrics whenever it's possible. Build a portfolio. So there's this fancy thing people do now. It started with UI UX designers, but I think product managers are starting to do it. They build a portfolio. It's like a one-page website that talks about all they've done, all the projects they've done, and some case studies they've written. Sometimes the case studies are not related to the work they are doing today. They might just have an idea, do a case study, lodge it on their website. So they can just send the link to anybody that's recruiting. Person can go there, see their case study, see how they're able to solve problems. Any side projects you've worked on, they can chip it into that portfolio. They can do like process documentation. So I don't know if you've seen some random posts on LinkedIn or Twitter where some designers will say, kindly see a redesign of the Jumia food app that I did, or see a redesign of the Glovo food app that I did. So maybe on Glovo today, when you click proceed to cart, they will show you a summary before you now go and pay. Maybe this person did it that when you click to cart, the summary and the page to pay is on one page. So they are saving the user an extra click. So that's not the current Glovo journey, but that's what they are proposing. They'll do it and put it on their portfolio. Anybody that sees it will be like, oh, this is not the current journey, but I think this person is innovative with what they're trying to do. So stuff like that. It doesn't have to be your main work. Just think of a problem, try to solve it, document it, put it on your portfolio. It'll help you when you're applying for jobs. Then write a great cover letter. Quite frankly, I'm lazy when it comes to cover letters. So it's usually optional. And I don't do cover letters for all applications. Maybe if I'm really looking to go into Google, there are some companies that I'm targeting. I'm like, I want to work with Google. I want to work with McKinsey. And so when I want to apply to such companies, I go the extra mile. So I can decide to write a cover letter. So you can have a standard cover letter template that you can always just customize for each job, right? Just on the cover letter, showcase why you're the best person for the job and highlight the experiences that you have that are relevant to that company. If I'm trying to apply to InterSwitch, for example, InterSwitch deals in payments, I cannot now be writing on my CV that I have an experience with gaming products and it's not tallying. That is not the experience I would pick. I'll most likely pick my experience in banking, in building digital loan apps, or in building digital payment apps. That experience would help me get a job with InterSwitch. So just align your experiences with the company you are going for. Then networking, we already spoke a lot about networking, cannot be over emphasized, right? Then attend webinars and meetups. Some of these meetups are not physical. Some of them are virtual webinars. You can just do a random search on Twitter and say product webinars. Go to toggle to latest. Go to the toggle on Twitter that says latest. You'd see links. You see links to some of them are just discussions on X. Some of them are just live. People that are just going live and just talking. People that just want to talk. You learn a lot. So usually I even recommend Lenny's podcast. I don't know if you've never heard of Lenny's podcast. Search up Lenny's podcast on your podcast app and listen. So these are guys that talk about products. These are guys that have built great products for years. So just listen to them talk about their work, ask questions and answer it. You will get to learn a whole lot and you'll be learning a lot in short time. So I always encourage people to use transition time. So maybe you're traveling from CMS to VI for work, right? While you're in CMS to VI, instead of just scrolling on TikTok and stuff, just log on to Learning's podcast, read a newsletter. You might spend 30 minutes on that trip, but you have no idea what you will learn in 30 minutes if you are plugged into a podcast or you're reading a newsletter on products. You're basically just learning for free, right? So once you've done all of this and you have a strong application, let's now go into your interview. How do you now prepare for the interview? You've submitted a great application and you've made the cut and you've been scheduled for an interview at a certain date, right? So typical PM assessments. These typical PM assessments, I tried to pinpoint 4 areas: product sense, execution and analytics, technical and behavioral. Some interviews may not include all these 4. Some interviews can just check out your product sense, check out how analytical you are, and check out how techy you are and move on. But some of them will require you to tick all the 4 boxes, right? So before you go for the interview, get a sense of the products, the company you're going for. So product sense, they're trying to find out how you think about building product. So the example I put there is, how would you design a new feature for Uber, for example? If you already use Uber, a lot of you use Uber and Bolt. So if you had to think outside the box, what new feature do you think Uber needs? What new feature do you think Bolt needs? Right. So that's what most companies will do. So when you're applying for some companies, they'll say do a case study, because they're trying to find out your product sense, right? How are you able to think up features on your feet, right? Then the next thing, they want to also gauge your execution and analytics. How do you measure success, right? So they might say, okay, we have a food delivery app, for example. How would you measure success for this product? They want to find out how. So with this assessment, I can own a company. Let me say, for example, I own a company and I sell donuts. I, as the owner of the company, naturally, I'm going to be very analytical and I'm going to be very keen on execution. But I want to be sure that the product manager I am going to employ can also be analytical. So for me, as the owner of the company, my goal is to sell 2,000 donuts every month. So that will be the success metric for me. So I'm trying to interview a product manager and I ask the person, how would you measure success in this role? And the person say, if 50 users are able to sign up on the donuts app, we are obviously not aligned. I want people to sign up, but yes, I want them to sign up and then also buy donuts, right? So if I get such a PM, if I interview such a PM, I will know that, okay, this person is not as analytical as I am, or we are not as aligned, right? So to prepare for your interview, try to chip in execution and analytics. If you are trying to interview with money point, try to just brainstorm and think of what their problems are and how you can solve it and what success in solving it would mean. If they currently do 1,000 terminals, read up on them. What is their numbers like? What are they doing? What features are they doing? What do you think? What is their most valued feature? And just think of how you can put a success metric to that. You might just say, okay, I think MoneyPoint is currently doing 1,000 POS terminals. If you apply me for this job, I have cool features that will get you doing 30,000 terminals per month. You're already catching their interest. You're already coming up as an analytical person, right? So the next other assessment they might do is technical. They try to find out how knowledgeable you are of engineering and design concepts. Most interviewers will just say, if you are trying to build a product and you're trying to build a skeletal frame of what the features and user journey would be, what tools are you going to use? So tools for these are most likely Whimsical, Figma, tools that allow you do wireframing, MindMaster, that will allow you do mind mapping and all of that. But if you are not prepared, you will not know to answer this. So they will just rule off that, okay, this person is not very technical and they don't understand engineering and design concepts. So you need to be fully prepared all around. Then behavioral assessment will be them asking you about your past experiences. How well do you work with a team or leadership? So in preparing for your interview, just look out for these four factors: product sense, execution and analytics, your technical knowledge, and then behavioral, right? Try to play all of it. Look at a mirror, rehearse it, try to get answers for all these segments or categories. Running out of time, especially because we started late. So I'm going to try to be faster, right? So sorry. Then the next thing you need to check out for when you're preparing for that product management interview would now be frameworks for answering questions. Here I've highlighted 3 frameworks for answering questions, right? So to explain the first one, is called the circles method, right? So this method helps you to structure your response when you're asked to design or improve a product, right? You can apply the circles method. So the circles stand for customer, insights, requirements, competition, list efforts, execution, and success metrics. Sorry, I couldn't go into all the details here, but once you just type in circles method on Google, it'll come out and you'd see it. So when interviewers ask you a question like, okay, if you were to launch a feature for the current company, what would it be? Anything that is concerning the product, you can use the circles method. So when they are trying to gauge your product sense, we already spoke about product sense in the first line item. When they are trying to gauge your product sense, a way for you to be able to crush that question is to apply the circles method. Customers, you think of customers, who are the users, what are their needs? Then think of insights, what data or user behavior can guide your decision. Then for requirements, what are the must-have features? For competition, what alternatives exist? And how would your solution stand out, right? For least effort, what is the simplest MVP, the minimum viable product? For execution, how would you prioritize development? For success metrics, how would you measure if the product is working? So I want to give you a practical example. I'll use myself as an example. I'm applying for a job at InterSwitch. Sorry, I keep using InterSwitch. I'm applying for a job at InterSwitch, and they want to make me the product manager for their SME product, not just SME settlement product. So to use the circles method, I need to now establish who their customers are, right? So I'll say, okay, for this SME product, the target for this product are merchants who sell consumer goods, right? And judging from this particular target audience, they believe in fast settlements. Once an item is purchased, they want to be settled on time. So therefore, the must-have requirements for this product would be instant settlement, a merchant-friendly dashboard that would help them track all the sales that they've made. And then for competition, I would say for these features that I'm proposing, there are competitors like MoneyPoint, Hydrogen Pay that are currently doing it. But if we're able to release a merchant dashboard that allows the customer to pend or automate settlements for MVP, we would be able to take out competition even with our minimum viable product, right? And this is how I plan to execute. So that's E in circles, execution. E. This is how I plan to execute it. That's when I will now come up with user flows, user stories, mind maps of how I plan to launch this feature. And my success metric would be for me to measure that my settlement product is working for SMEs. We are able to currently we settle 10 SMEs in 2 weeks. But with this, my product will be able to settle 50,000 SMEs in 1 day, and we'll get 1,500 clicks per hour. I will now start defining all the success metrics. Once you answer that question using this circles method, it's a very rounded way to answer the interviewer, right? Because you've highlighted who their target audience is, you've given them insights on their target audience's behavior, you've given them the requirements for the first launch, you've given them what competition is doing and how you can pass competition even with your first release, and you've told them how you plan to execute it, and you've also stated the success metrics, right? So that's a very rounded way to use circles method. The next method there is execution, AARM. So when someone is trying to gauge out how your execution is or how your analytics is, once the person asks you the question and you find out that, okay, this is a question that is kind of analytical, they're trying to find out how analytical I am, use the AARM framework. So this stands for acquisition, activation, retention, and monetization, right? So acquisition is how do you get new users? Activation is how do you ensure that these users take key actions? For example, once they sign up, how do you ensure that they make their first purchase? Once they sign up, how do you ensure that they make their first transfer? Retention, how do you not keep them how you make sure they log in again? Because if you built an application, I logged in the first time, I did my first transfer, but it took me 30 minutes, I probably not log in again, right? Then monetization, how do you now generate revenue? So when someone is trying to ask you an analytical question, they could ask you, what metrics would you track for a food delivery app? You're trying to apply for Chowdeck, and they're asking you, what metrics will you be tracking for this Chowdeck app? You now tell them acquisition, tell them how you will get new users. You may want to tilt to referrals, marketing, maybe launch a referral feature that will make, say, if you refer your friend, you get one free plate of food. People will jump on that. Then you tell them how you plan to activate it, the key actions you want users to take. If you are doing referral, for example, I want users to click on their referral code, copy it, and send it to 10 friends on WhatsApp. Then retention, how do you keep them engaged? Loyalty programs, you now say for every friend that uses their referral code, they get 3 points, and 3 points is equal to 3,000. Monetization, how do I not generate revenue? You can now say, okay, chip in subscriptions, just like where they're doing free delivery. It's not actually free delivery, but you need to pay for all your deliveries per month. So they say pay 2K and enjoy free deliveries all through. So that was somebody's idea. That was a product manager's idea. So that's also part of monetization. So that's how I use AARM framework to answer analytical interview questions as a product manager. Then another thing is behavioral. So behavioral is easy. They just want to find out. You use the STAR method for behavioral. STAR method is situation, task, action, and result. So situation is you describing a challenge. Then task, what is your specific role? Action, what steps did you take? And the result, what was the outcome? So a behavioral question might be asking you, oh, I see in your CV that 3 years ago, you were working for OPE. What did you do at OPE? If you want to use a STAR method here, you describe the situation. S is for situation. You describe the situation you had when you were working at OPE 3 years ago. You describe the task you were doing there. That's what the T stands for. Action, you describe the specific actions that you took while you're working with OPE. And arrow is for results. You now describe the results that you brought to OPE. When I joined OPE, they were doing 10 billion. But as I started working, they started doing 50 billion. So that's when you now start describing the results. It's not always about money. You can see when I joined OPE, customers are not clicking on the loan feature because probably the button was too hidden. They needed to click to go to the next page to see it. But once I joined, I brought it forward and they started getting more clicks on loans and customers started taking loans. That's a very good result. It doesn't always have to be money. What were the results that you achieved while you were there, no matter how little or small or big? So that's how you apply the STAR method when you are being asked a behavioral question, right? Then the next thing is mock interviews. Practice in front of a mirror. I like practicing in front of a mirror. That's the good old style, right? Then practice with your peers. Use there's also platforms like Pramp, Rocket Blogs. Just check them out on Google. You would see. You can also go to YouTube. There are some interview guides on YouTube. They are very interactive. They'll say they will give you do's and don'ts, right? Then you can also record yourself answering questions and listening again. So it will help you refine your responses. So sometimes you have the right things to say, but it takes you long. You used to give a lot of stories before you now get to the meat of the matter. So record yourself, hear yourself, pick only the strong points, consolidate it, record yourself again, make it shorter, make it straight to the point, make it very convincing, right? So with that, you can prepare for your next PM interview. So on the next slide, sorry, I'm almost done now. I should be done in the next 10 minutes. Someone says you can also ask your wife to act as an interviewer and she can ask you some of the questions. Exactly. So you can just ask someone around you to act as an interviewer and you tell them to rate how you're asking. What can you do to be better? Maybe you're always so you can just catch yourself and improve on all of that. So now you know what kind of job works for you from the beginning of this lecture when we talked about finding what job works for you. So there are some, no matter how desperate you are for a job, once you see such openings, you're like, this is not for me. Because you already understand your values, you know your strengths, you know your interests, right? And you finally prepared a groundbreaking resume and you've mastered how to answer interview questions. So having ticked all of these boxes, you've bagged your first role, right? You've gotten that offer letter, you've gotten that congratulation email. Welcome. We are happy to have you as a product manager for XYZ company. How do you now prepare, right? So preparation doesn't start when you get that congratulation email. Preparation starts the moment you decided that you wanted to do product management. That's when you start taking courses. That's when you start thinking.